So I'm going to ask you in a moment to let your imagination travel to your own associations. And as you respond to the question that I'm going to ask you, the invitation is to notice what happens in your joints and in your skin, in the internal scaffolding and support system of the joint spaces and their connections to one another, and in the external membrane and protection of your skin. And if or when you notice certain things, and those things, I'll leave them up to you what they are, that feel like they might want more information or benefit from more information, there's also an invitation to bring your hands there, to bring your touch, or to bring your holding. So the question that I have for you could be phrased in a lot of different ways, but in its essence, the question is about the stories that you might be telling yourself or have told yourself about who you are that are not actually true. The stories that may have been told to you about who you are or who you should be that are not actually true. And there might be particular storylines, like we talked about at the beginning, a feeling that you have to be some way for someone else. There might be particular lifetimes of storylines. We have to be this way because this is how we are. Exploring the story, exploring the feeling. Who do you become? Letting any particular memories or images or past or current ruminations enter into the imaginal field. Okay. And then noticing what parts of the body really hold this story. This is the way that I'm supposed to be. In order to get what I need, I have to do this, be that way. If I'm not this way or that way, then I'm X, Y, or Z. No good, not lovable, I'll die. A lot of these stories are very deep, they're very old, and they might have big consequences attached to them that don't always seem so logical or something like that if we're trying to explain it in the moment. Let your hands find the parts of your body that register sensation. And let your hands explore what's happening in the joints. Are there certain ways that these joints are getting used or related with that bring tension, that lock, that feel rigid? Are there certain joints that end up carrying a lot of the weight or a lot of the load? What happens in your skin? Are there surfaces of the skin that become more or less sensitive and aware? Are there surfaces in the inner body that become more or less sensitive and aware. And then through your internal inquiry, through your touch, through your sensing, get curious about what's possible here. And what's possible might be a breath. It might be a movement. It might be a message to yourself. So as you sense this notion, this idea, a story that has lived inside of you about who you should be or who you have to be, that does not feel true or that feels maybe imposing upon your form, what are the other stories? What are the counterbalances? The thoughts, the messages, the sensations, the emotional affect that this story would benefit from remembering. What happens in your joints and your tissues as you tell yourself these other messages? What happens in the sensitivity and awareness or the quality of your skin? You will notice for just 1 minute more. And if you can, let your consciousness get as big as your whole body. Let it encompass your face and your skull and your spine and your lower limbs and your upper limbs. Let it include the inner and the outer surfaces of your skin. Let it include contact with gravity, with weight, with breath. Noticing the shape of the story. Noticing the shape of a new story. And then if you have time, I know we've gone a couple minutes over, but if you have time, take a moment to note for yourself where the sensations are most potent in this story. What joints do they live in? What surfaces of the skin do they infuse? And you might note them internally, mentally. You might make a note. And over the course of this next week, as we move into Mercury's retrograde, as we move towards next week's eclipse, let these parts be your guide. See if you can tune in with them, touch in with them every day, multiple times a day. And notice when they might be resonating with some of the feelings in the joints or in the skin that you noticed associated with this story. And if you notice those sensations are present, then you might just inquire if the story is being told also in that moment. And you might also remember some of your remediation, some of the balance, the other story, or the qualities of touch